And anxiety is linked to obsessive compulsive disorder, right? Are they connected together?
They really aren't as much as people think
Mhm.
they are. They like to hang out together. They're definitely comorbid conditions, and so if you have OCD, the likelihood of you having anxiety is very, very high, like generalized anxiety. But they are very different disorders, and I think that people kind of get that confused because how you treat OCD versus anxiety is very different too. So, um,
So how are they different? Explain it. I don't,
okay,
because I can imagine obsessive compulsive disorder, right? Like you're worried about some things in the world, and so you have a ritualized kind of like behavior that is soothing, right? I mean, I don't know. Tell
yeah.
me. I know I'm certainly wrong, and
Well, that's definitely like the Cliff Notes version of it.
okay.
You have like an intrusive thought or feeling, and I think people miss the feeling part. And you have to do or avoid something to get some brief relief. But the more you do or avoid, the bigger it grows. And so I think people think of OCD and they think, germs and hand washing and neurotic behavior. And they don't realize that you can have an intrusive thought that says, I was going to say a bad word, or you can have an intrusive thought that says I'm a bad person, and you have to do or avoid something to get that brief relief. I think we think of checking and tapping and cleaning, and we don't realize the other nuances that happen with OCD. And OCD is less of um, the anxiety themes are different often, not doesn't have to be 100%, but the OCD thoughts and feelings are often different. And I think that gets confused too. It's not really just like a fight or flight response. It's not like, let me just protect myself. And now I have things I need to do to protect myself. You can have sensory motor OCD where you feel like you have to pee over and over and over again. It's a misfiring and it involves the basal ganglia. So it's a different part of the brain than some of the anxiety stuff that we look at. So there's this weird overlap, but there's also some very separate things that are purely OCD and not anxiety based.
What are some of the first things that a parent should be like looking for or doing or to help their child with this?
If it's OCD, and a lot of stuff I'm talking about, just to take a step back,
Mhm.
can be other things. So I think it's always important when you're listening and you're getting new information to say, this is a piece of the puzzle, but it may not be my piece. It's just one piece of a puzzle. If a child is trying to pee over and over again, they might have a UTI, so take them to the doctor and rule that out, just to
Yeah.
throw that out there. But when we're talking about OCD and the difference between anxiety and OCD is you're going to look at a lot of compulsive behavior. Your child's doing a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense, or even they're asking you questions over and over and they're not satiated by that. And so you're answering them and they're asking you again and they're asking you again. Maybe they even want you to respond in a certain way. And they seem very distressed if you don't give them that response. And you're in this vicious loop. That's different often than the anxious person who will say, mom, and they'll ask you something about their anxiety. What was that noise? And then you answer it and they're satisfied. Their anxiety
Mm.
can process this and get satisfied. It might come up tomorrow or the next day, but it's satisfied. With OCD, it's very repetitive. And so as a parent, when you start to see, wow, my child's, first of all, they're confessing weird things to me. They're like, mom, 2 years ago, I think that I kicked the dog. And you're like, well, honey, don't worry about it. And then, you're seeing a pattern of questions that seem bizarre. That's a red flag. And if you're not
Mhm.
able to help your child in the ways that a typical parent would, that's a red flag. Or if you're seeing them do quirky things around the house, they're tapping in a certain way, or they're making certain expressions, or they're, excessively washing their hands. That is actually, part of OCD. I think most people don't miss that one, but they miss
Mm.
the parent component of, you have to say a certain thing to me in a certain way, or I'm going to not be okay. So
Mm.
if you see those things, that's a red flag, and then seek out some help to get it assessed.
Okay, okay. So for the OCD kind of behaviors, we wanna just get help right away, and what might that help look like for
It's
I
a
mean,
little
just in a nutshell?
Yeah. Look for an OCD therapist. So
Yeah,
go
yeah.
to like the International OCD Foundation. You can go to iocdf.org/find-help. And I memorize that because there aren't a lot of OCD therapists, and they'll rule it in or they'll rule it out. And then you can just cross that off your list.
Catch new episodes of the Mindful Mama podcast and other free resources, including the Mindful Mom Guide at mindfulmamamentor.com. You can listen to every back catalog episode, including interviews with Dr. Dan Siegel, Janla Van Zant, Sharon Salzberg, and get meditations, join our private Facebook group, and more. Go to mindfulmamamentor.com now. I'll see you there.